Hi friends, it's Carly and I'm back again with another review. So we are on our whirlwind tour of reviews with my Age of Apocalypse series and Retro Spider-Man figures coming in at the same time. So today we are on a Retro Spider-Man figure, and I'm not going to delay at all. I have been so looking forward to talking about this figure, and we're just going to get right into it with Max Dillon Electro. So Electro is one of my favorite villains for a bunch of reasons. So, first of all, I've always just thought it would be really, really cool to be able to control electricity, which is his ability that he gained while working as a power line repairman. He was working on a power line that was still connected to its spool, and lightning struck, and it gave him the power to control electricity. So I was reading up, and this I didn't know about Max, but that he, as a child, he grew up with his single mother, and as a child, he wanted to be an electrical engineer. But his mom convinced him over the years that he wasn't smart enough to do that, and that's how he ended up being an electrician working on the power lines, which is such a sad story. It reminds me of Gru in Despicable Me, how his mom, he can just never do anything to make her happy, and that's his life of villainy. But it sort of is a great precursor to Max's career as a villain. He just never seems to be able to get a leg up. He has all this power, but he can never really quite beat Spider-Man, so he always sort of ends up just joining forces with other villains. He gets embarrassed a lot. He can never really do it on his own, and you guys know I kind of like a bumbling character. So not that he's necessarily bumbling, but he really never makes ends meet as a great villain on his own, and I just think he's super, super cool. He can surround himself with electricity and travel on power lines. He can shoot electricity out of his fingers. He can control power grids. Like, I think it's the coolest ability ever. So I'm really excited about this figure, and this classic costume does not disappoint in any way. So as you can see, the thing that stands out to me most of all when I'm first looking at this figure is the paintwork on the face. So he has this really elaborate mask that goes up and over in lightning bolts around his face and sort of takes up a lot of space and additionally covers his face. But as you can see, when we get really close up, Hasbro did not leave anything to chance on the details that are showing. So his eyes are painted beautifully in high detail. I really like the flesh tone they used on him. I feel like it's got a little bit more depth than the sort of like peachy, flesh tone that we see on white action figures. Like, it can sometimes be a little bit flat. So I feel like this is a different color. It's almost as if he's been in the sun, which is also really appropriate. And his eyes are like bright, vibrant blue. So I think that the paintwork, for a character whose face is mostly obscured, I think that they really did everything to make this look dynamic and vibrant, and it's a real success for me. So his costume is pretty direct. It's all about lightning bolts, about bright color, about the contrast in gold on green, and this is exactly what it looked like. These are the gloves with the lightning bolts on the side. I feel like they captured him perfectly. He has a spot here for a stand so that you can pose him flying or, shooting up in the air. So I think that's a really cool opportunity for posing him. He comes with an accessory pair of hands, and they are lightning hands. Let's put them on real quick. They snap on and off really easily. I haven't had any issues just popping them right off like this and popping the electric hands in. They're pretty big, so if you're gonna use these, they take up a lot of space. They look a little bit strange to me. He is Electro, and his costume makes it work. So it obviously does read as electric bolts coming out of his hand because that's who he is. But at the same time, I don't know. I think it looks a little bit crazy. It looks a little bit chaotic, and not necessarily perfectly executed. I think they could have given a little bit more order to it, but all said and done, we know what it is. It looks pretty cool. I'm not entirely sure. I think I like the fist hands better with this figure, so I'm not entirely sure that I'll use those. You know, a lot of times I want to see an energy bolt or, you know, some sort of casting effect, and then I never even use it anyway. So I don't know that I will be using those, but they do look pretty good. And it's nice, you know, in a line like this to get functional accessories because, you know, it's just nice to see an improvement over the first figure in this line, Gwen Stacy, when I wasn't happy with her accessories. Peter was pretty good, but had those weird goggles. Everything makes sense for Electro. So I'm super happy with the design. I do have a couple of flaws on my figure. Now, I know this is specific to my figure, but because of the contrast in colors, because of the bright yellow on the dark green, this could be something that we see kind of across the board. It's sort of difficult to get these things perfectly executed when they're being so mass produced. But I do have some bleeding through on the paint here. On the side of his leg, you can see right here, it's pretty slight. There's a little bit of bleed through on his chest here with the green showing through. And I have an, right here on the plastic, there's just sort of a scarring. And the reason, it's very slight damage, but the reason that I point that out is that particularly with lines like these retro figures that come on a beautiful card, if you want to get a better look at the card, check out my last video, Peter Parker. I showed what the cards for these figures look like. But the collectability of these is really the main thing. So even though, you know, that's just probably a little hiccup in production and it's to be expected with mass-produced figures, it's worth noting on one in this line in particular because these are definitely going to be purchased by people who want to display them, want them to display beautifully, will hang them on the wall on their card. So little imperfections like that, just being aware that those are popping up is worthwhile, I think, for a lot of the collectors who are going to be getting these. But all that said, I'm certainly not mad at it. It doesn't diminish the you know, my excitement about this figure at all. It's definitely just worth noting. So let's go ahead and get into articulation. I am super, super excited about the articulation on this head. I was playing with him a little bit, and you know, the first thing I always do is make them look up. Look at how far he can look up. I think that the movement on this is really great. The way that the mask is, you can see the ends of it curl up because they sort of like hit his chest. So that's something, you know, just the size and the awkward shape of the mask, it's gonna happen. But it does look a little bit goofy when you have him looking up and he's got these like curly bolts sticking up. But I'm really happy about the movement because what that means overall is better opportunities to pose him, better photography opportunities. Everything about it is better when you have a better range of motion. So we have a really good sort of axis that the head moves on here. He actually looks down really well too. So a lot of times we see that the figure, at least I find personally, that the figure will do one or the other. They look up really well or they look down really well, but never both. This one has both, and so I'm really, really happy with the articulation in the head. I have another flaw on this figure. So you'll see on the right arm, is it on the right arm? No, it's on the left arm. So on the left arm, I have really great lateral movement with the arm in alignment. So meaning the arm, if he were relaxed at his side, this is how his arm would sit without making use of any of the additional articulation that it offers. So on the right side though, I have a little flaw here in the shoulder socket that it's sort of pushed down a little bit. So I cannot put his arm all the way up this way with his arm in alignment, in a relaxed alignment. I have to turn the armpit up in order to get like a full, to get a slightly more range of motion, and that's because the shoulder here is bumping up against this piece of plastic. So you can see that the arms on mine do not go up evenly. Again, this is another production thing. I'm not super mad at it, but I'm not happy about it either, because now I definitely can't use a lateral type pose with this figure at all. This is the best I can get on that arm. So that is a little bit frustrating. I do not think that this is something that most people will be seeing with their figure, but we'll go ahead and just look at the articulation on the functioning side of his arm. So on the side where it functions, it looks really, really good. We've got 360 degrees here in the bicep. We've got double jointed elbows that work beautifully, which we always like to see. We've got wrists that turn, let's see, 360 degrees. Hard to get focus on these little hands. So 360 degree turn on the wrist here. And then he also, oh no, he doesn't. I thought he also turned in the wrist. So we've got really great movement overall in the arms. But again, I've got a damaged figure that doesn't have full range of motion in the shoulder, but everything else on that side works. So I think I can still get some pretty good poses out of him, although it would complicate using his lightning hands, I think. But since I'm not going to do that, it's all right. If mine weren't damaged, I would be super, super happy about the range of motion and the articulation in the arms. So his torso is also great. He gets a really great forward bend like this, and a really great backward bend too. So he can look all the way up at the sky. That's like, you know, a really nice change. Some of these figures lately have not been moving very well in the torso. We've had some obstruction based on, or because of the costumes that they're wearing, the vinyl that they've got overlaid. So having his suit be sort of painted on and still look really nice makes for completely unobstructed articulation. So that's really exciting to see too. He's got 360 degrees in his waist, which is great. We're just not getting the lateral lift in the legs that I like to see. So this is where they've all been sitting lately, and I'd like to see more. I know that it's possible. In the past, it felt like they would all get like a full lateral side split, but these are not. So I would like to see that. This range of motion is okay for me, but I think it could go farther, and I'm a little miffed that they don't do that anymore. We've got the 360 degree turn here in the thigh. We have double jointed knees that are a little bit tricky. We sort of run into some obstruction right there, but it's still pretty good. We have the boot turn that, you know, I have some thoughts about, but we have that 360 degrees. And we've got the great ball and socket joint ankle that gives us the full move back on the foot, forward, and then that turning range of motion. So for the design of this figure, as far as the articulation goes, I'm really happy with it. I did get one that is damaged and not fully functional. I'm not entirely sure. I felt like it was running into the plastic here, but it seems like something else might be obstructing the movement of this arm here. That's unfortunate for me, but the way that the left arm works, I feel like is really, really great. So if you have one that isn't damaged at all, the articulation is really great overall from top to bottom. The weird boot thing, I know, you know, people disagree with me on this. I hate it, but you don't have to use it if you don't like it. So the fact that it's there and it works the way that it should for being there, even though I feel like it shouldn't be there, is great. It's spot on the way that it's supposed to work. The design is exactly like the original Electro, so I love the costume. The colors are bright and vibrant with minimal bleeding a little bit, but that's to be expected with a dark color under a yellow. Like it's just gonna happen. Sometimes some figures will be better than others. So overall, I'm really pleased with this figure. I wish that I had gotten one that was a little less hindered by, you know, production issues, but if he weren't, I feel like he would be one of the favorite in my collection. I will probably try to buy another one. I don't think that this is something that I will take the time to send back to Hasbro. I'll just wait for him to hit the shelves again and get one that is fully functional. And I'm really excited to put him over on my Spidey shelf back here. So with that said, that is my review on Electro. I like this figure a lot. Aside from the little issues that I have, I feel like I can recommend him to everyone. If you want a good Spidey villain, if you don't have an Electro, this is definitely worth purchasing and adding to your shelf. Let me know if you guys have any production problems with your Electros, if you're getting them yet, or when you do, in the comments below. I'm interested to know if this is something that happened with a lot of figures or if I just got unlucky, as we sometimes do. Let me know if you agree with my review. If you think it's a great figure, let me know in the comments below. If you disagree, let me know what you think they could do better. I am continuing on a roll with another video today that will be something a little bit different that'll be posting up tonight. Then tomorrow we're back on Age of Apocalypse. I believe the next figure I'm going to be looking at is the Sunfire figure. I asked you guys to put in the comments below what figures you'd like to see me do next, and the only comment that I heard was Sunfire. So we're going to jump right in with him the day after, or actually tomorrow. So look forward to that. Make sure you subscribe and turn on your notifications to keep up with all that's going on. And make sure you check out my Annoying You with Friendship Facebook page and website, annoyingyouwithfriendship.com, for updates and lots of new content coming up. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you all so much, and I'll be back later today with another one. Bye, friends.